Hello, everybody. Sorry, the update beginnings are just not as hello-ish as they normally would be. I'm still recovering or whatever, but want to wish everybody just well wishes from our end, from the Duchess and I. Everybody, thank you so much for all your concern over what we've been going through over the past few days with our cat and everything. But I'm here to do a seismic update and want to bring you up to speed on what's going on, seismically speaking, in the West Pacific. I will try to get back to my cheery self, which, I generally am a positive person overall. All right, anyway, let's talk about it. Let's go take a look at what's happened since my last update. Of course, in the last update, we were dealing with the big earthquake up here in Japan off the coast of Fukushima. And since then, we're pretty much looking at everything since that big quake. Here's the big quake, and then here's everything that it struck afterwards. So we're looking at 4s and 5s, a few 3s are mixed in, but what I want to show you is the big activity. And look at this. Look at where we're centered now, and look at the magnitudes on these. We have a 6.1 and a 5.9, another 6.1, another 6.1, and another 6.1. The new 6.1 just struck in the past few hours right here at the pinnacle tip, but do you notice how they're all three, or actually all four, centered around this U-shaped bend that goes up to the letter D? Now, let me show this to you in a different way. We're going to go over here in the USGS plate boundary map. Oh, wait. Got a little technical glitch in there. There we go. So here on the USGS plate boundary map, over in the West Pacific, going from, let's just say, Papua New Guinea all the way back over to Fiji, from here over to here, the red line makes a U-shaped bend past New Caledonia, and then back up to the north into, like I said, that triangular-shaped bend where our letter D is. Now, there's been a series of large earthquakes that struck here over the past few weeks, including the spot right here where this other 6.1 is. So do you find it a little odd that all of the earthquakes that have spread out across, let's say, 1,000 miles of the plate boundary are all the same magnitude in the last day and a half? Again, this is just the last 2 to 3 days worth of quakes. Now, if we take it down one step to 5s, what you're going to see is a spread that takes place between our other areas which are moving, and you'll notice the magnitudes on this. Actually, let me take it down to 4s just to show you that, again, we're looking at everything 4.0 and greater. I don't want you to think that I'm just selecting and showing you these earthquakes. No, the 5s and greater make a spread that's almost a perfect spread, equally spaced, of all the same magnitudes within a hair of a point of one another, going across, let's just say, 8,000 miles, going from Solomon Islands all the way up to Japan and all the way over to Indonesia. Following the red lines here, which again are just the edges of the plate boundaries. And this is in the last 2 to 3 days. So between our 7s, let's go back to the start of the week, we have our 7.0 activity up in Japan, and then, to top it all off, we have the 6s that are now clustered here north of New Zealand, or right around the pinnacle tip of the Pacific Western Point. Pacific Western Point over here, Pacific Eastern Point over here at South America, and South America is where we were dealing with it last week. Last week we were dealing with 7s down here, the last 2 weeks. 7s down here in South America, which they downgraded to 6.9s and 6.7s, but whatever, it was 7s to start. So it's a lot of activity that's going on right now, specifically in the West Pacific. And now for my new viewers that are here, there are always some new viewers, let me quickly explain. The earthquakes that are raised high off the globe are deep earthquakes. And the deep earthquakes lead to shallower, larger earthquakes. So look where a predominance of all of our deep earthquakes are. No, of course, they're right at Fiji. They're right at the pinnacle western tip of the Pacific Plate, meeting over into the Indo-Australian Plate. Indo-Australian Plate. And where the Indo-Australian Plate meets into the Pacific Plate, that's where our deep hammering action is coming up from underneath the plate. So a hammering action, I think, that's more like this in a wave tank, but coming up out of the magma from deep down in the mantle, going up through the asthenosphere, which is more plasticky, supposedly, and then goes into the underside of the more rigid plate, the lithosphere on the underside of the plate. And those are just complex words to describe the areas down below the plate that are semi-melted. So asthenosphere, the lithosphere, the mantle, it's just the magma down below the plates. Somewhere down there, below the plates, we have a rising force that's coming up, which then spreads out and away. And when it spreads out and away, it's not just getting chaotic like waves sloshing around in a tank, forms into what looks like a standing wave. But when I say what looks like a standing wave, you don't see this happening. The human eye cannot see this happening through the plate boundaries, these red lines. So hammering action underneath, then the spread starts to take place of equal-sized earthquakes, like a standing wave in a tank, where all the waves are getting about the same amplitude or the same power behind them. That gets us back to the spread of fives, going across in between where our hammering actions are taking place. The hammering actions, again, are where the deep earthquakes are, raised high off the globe. And what you'll see is that hammering action is spread all the way over to Europe, and it's spread all the way down to South America. So pretty much half the planet hammering down below, and in between where the hammering points are, we're seeing big activity, and specifically around where the most hammering action is taking place, that's where most of our large earthquakes are now taking place, centered around. When I see something like this, 1,000 or more miles moving all on a 6 basis in the last day or 2 days, and we are dealing with sevens on other parts of the plate around the Western Pacific, I would say we need to watch this area and the areas surrounding it. So we would watch right down in the middle of this whole mess where all 3 sets of rings sort of overlap on this plate boundary, the U-shaped bend. That's east of New Caledonia. We would also watch to the south, going down to New Zealand. We watch to the west, going all the way over to Papua New Guinea. Now we're going to find our halfway points between our previous sets of earthquakes to make this a little easier, but look, we have a halfway point here between Papua New Guinea and this huge set of 6s. We have a halfway point between the earthquakes that you aren't even really seeing being reported out of New Zealand. Again, the Western agencies kind of ignore most of the earthquakes down here unless they're significant, but I'll just say there's 2s and 3s and even a few 4s that have struck, and we'll just watch between the north tip of New Zealand and where all these earthquakes are, Kermadec Islands. So the central Kermadec and as far west as Solomon Islands are the perimeters of this. So think of it like this. A bunch of hammering action comes in on the underside of the plate. Already showed that to you in the wave tank. Then it starts to spread. Then on both sides of the area that are spreading, these waves go into the edge of the tank here, but imagine it going down to New Zealand, for instance, coming around the edge of the tank and going down all the way down to the end down here, and going all the way to the west, all the way to the western tip. These would be the ends of the tank, and in between is where the big sloshing is taking place right now. And then we watch between our current sets of earthquakes, equally spaced distribution. And that looks like what's getting ready to happen. Now, we're not just going there. Again, we're already dealing with the 7-point-something earthquake. I think it was a 7.3 to 7.7. They downgraded to 7.1. Striking up here in Japan, look what's happened in the past day, 2 days. Up in Japan, it started to spread. So we had our big earthquake, and then a bunch of aftershocks out in the ocean. But look, 2 of the same size quakes, 4.6 and 4.3, one going right over onto land. So the whole area in Japan is still in motion, but it's not as much as 2011, thank God. We saw something similar happen 10 years ago in 2011, March of 2011 no less. So we're almost right to that 10-year anniversary of the Japan megaquake. But right here, coast of Honshu just to the south, and Fukushima is right here, of course, the prefecture of Fukushima. We're on the north side. I just want to see if there's anything here other than faults that would connect in. We're below residential. Going out all the way into the ocean, 50 miles. So think of it like this. At least 50 miles of area going over onto land. Actually, that's more like 100 miles. 100 miles of area to the west, 100 miles of area to the north, and centered in the middle is where the big one just broke. But going out and away in all directions, look, 4.9 to the south, 4.9 to the north. And then north of that, 5.3, and south of that, 5.1 to 5.2. Wouldn't you say that's about the same size distribution going out in both directions? Again, a 4.9 and a 5.3 to the north, and a 4.9 and a 5.2 actually is where it came in but it's listed by USGS as 5.1, whatever, within a hair of a point of each other on both sides, like bookends, the 5s, and then 4.9s, and then in the middle, boom, the big one. Over to the west, new big deep earthquake, 5.1, happened a day and a half, 2 days ago, below north of Java. This is Java, Indonesia. And we issued a new warning for Sumatra, Indonesia, to be on watch right here in the middle of Sumatra for 6.0 plus activity. That has not taken place yet, but it's getting ready to. And I'd like to point out another, again, 5.1, another 5.1 up at Taiwan, the other 5.1 to 5.2 back over here to the east. And then we go over into Asia where this big open silent zone is. We have Smith Island here. Let's go back over to the plate boundary map again. This is going to come in very handy. Plate boundary map, the red line going up into Myanmar, and then over to the west into Nepal. You see it makes a bend across China, but I'm worried right in the middle of the open area where there's no earthquakes. Again, we watch our middle open areas where we don't have any earthquake activity, no matter how wide it is across, let's just thousands of miles or even a few hundred, we get back to the wave tank. The middle points, what I'll do is I'm going to hit play on this and just park my mouse over the top of one of these waves. And my mouse will disappear in a second, so I'll just kind of tap it a little bit. But you see how each wave comes and meets the mouse tip? And then it spreads, and then the middle point gets filled in by the valley or the trough of the wave, the bottom of the wave. It's a perfect distribution, right, of waves. Well, the same thing's happening across the red lines again. So I would expect that middle point to get filled in with a new larger earthquake. Again, we've got the warning going for Sumatra anyways. Looks like I just need to shift it maybe 200 miles to the north, which puts us right at the pinnacle tip of Sumatra, south of Smith Island, or north of Mount Sinabung. Previously, the spot that I warned 2 days ago when the 5 struck was right here. Well, slightly shifted due to these 2 4s. Additionally, as if that wasn't enough, Asia moved. 2 different things happened. I did my update 2 days ago. You guys can go watch it. It's over on YouTube. We issued the warning for upper 5 activity to come in west-northwest of Crete. This is Crete. And look what west-northwest of Crete, 5.5 struck at the Ioannina range. Right south of it, 5.5. Additionally, a 4.1 hit directly in Croatia. Those are 2 direct earthquake forecast hit. We issued the warning for Croatia to be on watch for 4.0 plus activity because of the deep 2.7. Remember, there was a deep 2.7 down below right where these rings overlap. Do you see where the rings overlap? Right here? That's like Bosnia going down towards Montenegro. Okay, deep 2.7 to 3.0 earthquake, somewhat rare, struck here 2 days ago. I talked about it in my video 2 days ago, which prompted me to issue the warning for a new outbreak to take place up here in Croatia, about a magnitude larger. So deep 3 leads to a shallow 4. Do you see? Now, additionally, this 5.5 is a result of the previous push that was coming into Europe from a few days ago. Let me show you where it was coming from and what caused it. Over here, again, Greece, that's where the 5.5 struck. Check it off the list if you were watching the areas that we warned. And we told you 2 days ago the push was coming in across, and that was from the previous 5.9 and the big activity coming out of China and coming out of Asia going across the Mideast. So it struck, then I think it was the next morning, so like 12 hours later, maybe not even, a 5.4 to 5.5 earthquake, a new push coming in on the plate boundary out of Iran. Right here. Red line again. So first, Greece got hit. That fulfilled our previous forecast. Then a new push came out of Asia and went over to Iran, a new 5.4 to 5.5. What does that mean? It means another earthquake is getting ready to take place, and it should be somewhere in the same magnitude range, 5-ish, low 5 to mid-range 5. Could even go bigger because we've got others mixed in. Think of this like a river. Coming out of Asia, coming out of Myanmar. Let's go back to the plate boundary map. Coming out of Myanmar, following the river this way, and USGS doesn't have anything across here, so we have to use my map, where we got the arrows. But it shows you which way to watch. And so this push, combined with this, is going to be going over to here again. And it should strike at the halfway points between our current sets of quakes. So that puts the Aegean Sea now right in the middle of the target, where all 3 sets of rings overlap, the middle of the Aegean Sea. Additionally, back up here from Croatia, back down into Bosnia, where the rings overlap, and I have to warn right back to Croatia, basically. And the magnitudes should both be in the 5 range now. So Croatia is about to take another step up, I think. Should go up into that next step higher, which goes to 5 range or so, which is big enough to cause damage and get people's attention. We don't want to see that, and let the people there know right now a new push is coming in from Iran. Here it is. You can see it, 5.4. The previous push just came in, and it's spreading across Europe now. Let me show you. Northwest France has been hit by a 3.1 right next to the north tip, I guess, or is that the western tip of the English Channel? But that is Northwest France, 3.1. Same-sized earthquake striking all the way out here at the Azores, and about the same-sized earthquake striking in North Africa, going down towards the Canary Islands. But look, one more time. Plate boundary, guys, look. I mean, you should be able to see this, right? We have a 3 out here. We've got a 3 down here. We've got the activity, a 3 up at the western tip of France, where USGS doesn't have anything, right? USGS doesn't have any lines or anything up there marked at all for plate boundaries. But that's the tip edge of the plate. You can see it going out to the continental shelf. Think of this like the east coast of the United States, but reversed. But same thing, the edge of the plate going out to the accretionary belt, going out to the coastal plain, like a reverse craton. Well, just flipped. Not reverse, but just literally west to east. So, same-sized activity going down to North Africa, going out to the Azores, and going back up on the tip of the plate. Meanwhile, the middle of the plate is really starting to shift middle south. You can see which direction the activity is going, back down across the Pyrenees, following our arrows perfectly. If you watched my update 2 days ago, none of this was here. And I talked about how the flow goes up through Italy, back down across through Spain, and Spain's going to get hit as well in the next few days. Well, the number of earthquakes is definitely increasing down at Gibraltar, but the magnitudes should go 2 magnitudes higher, up into the 4 range again, which caused major damage because of the way the geologic structure of the plate is there. Major damage caused on a 4.4 earthquake that struck there. Also, let's just mention Italy. Italy, where all 3 sets of rings overlap here in South Italy, while Sicily, right down here, Mount Etna has just been going through the roof. You guys have all been sharing videos and talking about it. I see all kinds of stuff. That's amazing. I'm glad everybody's covering it. That 33,000 foot high blast a couple days ago, the Strombolian eruptions that are taking place, which is just the type of lava flow they get. Actually, Stromboli volcano is right next to this, the actual Stromboli volcano. But lava flow is mainly on that, but the blast that happened a few days ago is what everybody really was talking about. That's the more rare event. There's a lot of lava flows from Mount Etna. I mean, big ones too that go on for weeks. But in this case, it's one of the biggest in a long time. I want to say biggest in years, probably. It's where all the rings overlap. Again, I mean, it's so obvious. Look at it. All the rings overlap on South Italy. And just south of it, I mean, within 100 miles, or 200 miles, we have Mount Etna. It can't be a coincidence. Africa is also moving with a 4.7. It's about the same size going across Asia. 4.7 to 4.9. Again, 4.7 coming out of Myanmar. 4.7 reaching all the way over into Africa. And this is right next to all of our ancient volcanoes on the African continent. Let's show those to you, in case you don't know. There we are. So, Lake Tanganyika? Oh, man, I'm sorry, guys. If you're from Africa, I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. But really, look, it's just to the west, southwest of the Big Lake. The Big Lake doesn't have anything marked, but I'm here to tell you, all the way along on the outside edge of here are ancient volcanic fields. I don't know why the Smithsonian doesn't have it marked through here, but I'm 100% on that, and they pick up right here. Maybe it's just a Google Earth thing, but they pick up here and they go up to the north and they really get more frequent. Maybe it's the countries that allow the USGS to come in or the Smithsonian to come in and actually do their studies. So you can tell where they came in and did their studies, and then just take these locations, look at them, look what they look like, and go up to the north and you're going to find the exact same ones connecting between. We are just to the west of there, which puts us somewhere right out here.
I would say definitely related to the plate boundary that's folding. And you know what? There's news stories that came out a few months ago saying that this is tearing apart. I disagree with that. It's actually folding and bending. It's like, well, like a fold, or take a tablecloth and push it together, and then you do get ripples, and it does. I mean, I don't know. Again, the professionals and the way they go through all that, they'll probably say it's GPS measurements or something, in which case it's just the surface. Okay, anyway, let's go back across. Let's recap. Major seismic activity taking place in the West Pacific around where our deep earthquakes are. Additionally, a spread of fives going between where our big earthquakes are, and we're now going to watch between those for additional large earthquake activity that could take place. And for instance, I should just probably issue the warnings now for this spot to be on watch for upper 7.0 activity. Maybe even the first 8 in the last, God knows how long. How many years? How many years has it been, guys? I don't even know. It's been a long time for an 8, where our deep earthquakes in between. So we can see, you can see in between our deep quakes. We know where to watch. We watch on the halfway points. We have 6s and 5s. It's pretty obvious something's getting ready to happen that's bigger than what we've already been experiencing. Now let's jump across over. Oh, and by the way, for the people down in the Kermadex and north of New Zealand, I'll put you on watch for upper 6. So let's put it like 6.5 to 6.9. And as far west as Indonesia, where the plate boundary meets, here, let me show this to you, where I showed you at the start of the update, but this is the end of the wave tank on one end, this is the end of the wave tank on the other. We go up and around the bend, and this whole thing's being saturated. Again, like I said, I'd warn the Kermadex, and I'd warn all the way over here in between our sets of quakes at Papua New Guinea, same size. With the biggest of the bunch, that potential 8, being right in the middle of the whole hot mess, which puts New Caledonia under the gun. Over in the East Pacific, I wouldn't expect it to be quiet, not with this going on in the West Pacific, and now with Japan with 7s and so forth. But over on the east side of the Pacific, we had a spread come across over the past few days. It's all the same size as what we were just talking about over here. 5.1, 5.2, and a bunch of 4s in between. Well, look what we're dealing with. 5.1, 5.2 with a bunch of 4s in between. I would expect this to also take the next step up in the next few days. So where do we watch? We watch at our halfway points between our current sets of earthquakes, but in this case, all of South America is moving. I'll put the warning area right here in North Chile. Now previously, down south, the big earthquake we were looking for last week at Bio, Chile, what did it top out at? Just to the north at 6.7, right? Well, I'll put it at the exact same magnitude. We'll put it from that 6.4 to 6.7 magnitude range. We'll look right in the middle in North Chile where it meets into Peru, and we've got a few more days to go in this, so get the terremoto warning out now. Terremoto means earthquake in Spanish. Okay, and then, I know there's not a lot of people down here, but we're still going to watch for it. 6.0 plus activity down at the South Sandwich Islands, at the tip of the pinnacle tip of the plate boundary over to the east, down here. See where this makes the bend over to the east? You see where it goes back up to the north and connects back across? Well, USGS doesn't have anything there, but I'm here to tell you there's a connection between this letter X back across, following up the plate boundary fracture zone, up to the north, back to the west, following this crescent shape of undersea mounts that goes back to where our deep earthquakes are hammering in on the underside, and we have fracture zones that lead out from it like a superhighway. So the force comes across, hits South America, goes around South America, hits South Sandwich Islands down in the South Atlantic. And the force comes across, goes around up to the north, and that's exactly what's happening right now. Equal distribution, mid-range 4s going up to the north. And they too are following the red lines. See these red lines? So we have a 4.7 and 4s going over to the east. And then look, over to the East Caribbean, it's almost the same size and shape as the South Sandwich Islands. Flowing around over on the north side of South America, the seismic activity continues to take place following the red lines, the plate boundaries. Last week, strikeout. I issued the warning here last week for I think upper 5? No, 5-ish and nothing came in. Zero, not even a small earthquake. Now let me show you what's there. It's a stair-step bend where I think a lot of tension is building right now. This is north and south facing, basically, and the rest of the fracture zones are east and west. So it's like a tension point or a step up that goes across. And I would expect the seismic activity to take a step up and strike in the middle. That has not happened yet. The longer we go, the more my eyebrows raise. Speaking of raised eyebrows, let's go over and check the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, see what's going on over there. Back to drinking coffee, finally. Okay, Sanjay in Ecuador, Raung in Indonesia, 14,000 foot discrete, that's actually small. Sabancaya in Peru, Fuego in Guatemala. Popocatépetl, yes. Donate to Volcano Discovery if you can. I don't get anything for recommending it, but they do a lot for us, guys. Etna in Italy still erupting. It's decreasing now, but I would think it's probably actually going to go back up again. I don't forecast eruptions, but the new push is coming in to Italy. Sanjay again, Etna again, Fuego again, Popocatépetl again, and that takes us into yesterday. And let's just keep going down the list to see if anybody new has been added to it in the past few days. I'm looking for new volcanoes that aren't normally on the list. Sakurajima had dropped off the list for months. You guys remember that? Just hadn't heard from it at all. And then now it's back. Sakurajima's in South Japan. But all the others around Japan stopped. So my eyebrows are raised. That's low. The number of volcanoes is actually low. A big blast at Mount Etna and that's it? No, there's got to be something building here volcanically. Seismically, we know it, but with the volcanoes dropping off like that, what happened to Semeru? What happened to Cinnabung? What happened to all of them? They're all gone. Suwanee-Zajima, what happened to all these eruptors that we were talking about for months that suddenly just fell off the list? That means something's building. And I would say West Pacific. I mean, come on. I mean, it's pretty obvious. All the deep earthquakes, the big earthquakes, all centered around here. But I don't forecast eruptions. I wouldn't even know where to begin to tell you to watch for the new blast to happen. I would say watch at our halfway points between our sets of earthquakes for earthquakes to happen. So let me just give you an example. Right here, there's 3 volcanoes that normally erupted for, years. Langila. You guys remember Langila volcano? Let's see. There was the volcano that hadn't erupted in 1,500 years. What was that one called? Blup Blup? Was that what it was called? Hold on. No, that's not what it was called. Katovar. Blup Blup's right next to it. Katovar volcano. Hadn't erupted in 1,500 years. And Langila, like I said, over here on the east side of New Britain, but we hadn't seen anything over here, and it's getting a little odd. I would think that we need to watch for the potential of extremely large blasts to take place, just as a caution. United States, Alaska, Hawaii. Where do we start? I guess we'll start with Alaska this time. Up in Alaska, the previous flow, the 5s that came across, went into the United States. There's no doubt about that. The 5s took a step down to basically 3s, coming out of Alaska, going down to the U.S. Nothing reported off the coast. I have a warning going for a 6.5 plus earthquake now to strike off the coast of the United States, Pacific Northwest, in the next few days. Get the warning out now to the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if they'll report it. I don't think they could hide it, though. I think that would show up on everybody's stations around the world. So, we're looking for something significant to strike, but about a magnitude less than what took place in Japan. Let's take you across the Pacific following our yellow arrows. Look where it goes. Look at the yellow arrow points, guys. These points correspond when large earthquakes take place, back and forth like a tennis match. We saw that happen in 2011. Within a few months or less, not even, within weeks of the big earthquake in Japan, man, were we moving up here in the Pacific Northwest. And they're connected across this. The North Pacific plate boundary. The red line again goes up to Kamchatka, over across into Alaska. We had 5s that came across over the past few days that went down into here, and down into here is the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. But in between the two, our biggest earthquake of the bunch, How big is it now? 4 point what? 4.1. Between Kodiak and Anchorage. This is Kodiak. This is Anchorage. Directly in between the two. Mid-range 4. Low to mid-range 4. Does that matter? Yes, it does. It means there's a new flow coming in now, going as high as 4. But that doesn't seem that big, does it? In comparison to what we're talking about around the rest of the Pacific. I mean, 7s and 6s and 5s again, and then we take a step down once we get over here. Now, the reason for that, I think, are the pinnacle tip shapes of the plate. Like a wave tank. This, once it gets up to here, tends to want to reflect back. Hence, I've got my arrows going both directions over here in the West Pacific. Again, like a wave tank, it can't really go around the bends of the tank too hard if they're bent too hard or they have a sharp edge to them. So between here and here, and then it spreads out over and around. You see how it's more smooth as it goes around the bend. It's not like a kinked, bent shape here. It's a more of a smooth, curved shape going down into the United States, into the Juan de Fuca. And this flows like a river from over to here to over to the United States. Okay, now let's get back into it. Hawaii. Hawaii. Well, things are still going on there. I've been watching Doing Hawaii over on YouTube. You guys should go subscribe to Doing Hawaii. Their channel is awesome. This guy drove around for the last year. While the USGS was like not doing drone flights or anything, this guy's actually physically driving around in Hawaii, going out to the old lava flow sites. And really cool. So he's running a channel and he's covering the eruptions at Kilauea, but something else has started to take place in the past week. Noteworthy in the past few days. Let's just pull the earthquake from right in the middle of this whole stack here. And put the coordinates in. Now look where we are depth-wise. Negative 1.1 km. How could we be up in the sky? Well, really, we're up in a mountain, guys. We're way up above sea level, right at the top of a mountain. And not just any mountain. We're at the top of the biggest stratovolcano. No, not stratovolcano. Shield volcano on the surface of the planet. Now, there's bigger volcanoes down below sea level, but down in the ocean. But this is the biggest, Mauna Loa. And we're right at the top of it, all the way around it, because look at the other earthquakes. Let's zoom in and show it again. On this brown splotch here, on my Earthquake 3D, see how we're at the top where most of these are? The rest are down along the coast, aren't they? Do you see anything in between? How about one earthquake in between? Hold up. Bunch of earthquakes up here at the top of Mauna Loa. Bunch of earthquakes down here along the coast, going from Pahala along the Middle East Rift Zone edge, but nothing up here at Kilauea. Oh man, do you know what that means? I don't know, so I'm asking you. No, just kidding. I really don't know what that means. I would think we would need to watch the seismic activity to give us indications of where there could be volcanic activity. That's just a educated guess on my part. I don't have any previous examples to go on with this. That's why I don't know what to think. Anybody who's into science, you have to use previous examples to go on to know what to expect in the future. So we don't have any previous examples. I guess maybe the last time that this erupted was in the 1980s. Now, I think in the 1980s, at the same time or around the same time that Mauna Loa erupted, Kilauea had previously erupted. So first there was an eruption at Kilauea sometime in the early 80s, I guess, and then Mauna Loa happened, from what I understand. Now that might be happening again now. Certainly it's odd that there's no earthquake activity of any significant size, not even zeros being reported, at Kilauea, which is refilling with its lava lake, and the Middle East Rift Zone is recharging. This is the Middle East Rift Zone. Here, going over to Kilauea. And notice how Kilauea is really just at the foot of Mauna Loa. So this thing's refilling. No seismic there now. Meanwhile, seismic takes place up here at the top of Mauna Loa. I think that means it's still charging. And that Middle East Rift Zone's charging. It's filling. But, I mean, what more can it do? If it's charging and filling, unless it blows and fills more here, it would transfer to the nearest other break in the plate, which would be Mauna Loa. and the energy or power transferring in, the push coming in from down below. Here, we got to look at the sideways now. Look at a side profile of Hawaii. The push that's coming from down below overall, all the feeder tubes for all the volcanoes on Hawaii are being excited, or all the feeding chambers, I should say, going up into Hawaii are being excited, except for Kilauea, which is already broke and releasing at the top. So these are like still capped or corked off, and the rest, the middle point, is the spot where it's flowing in. There could be another big push coming in underneath, which I think we wouldn't be shocked that would be happening, because look what's happening around the rest of the plate. The only thing that's missing is volcanic at this point around the plate. Okay, Hawaii. So I would watch at Mauna Loa. Something's going on. Let's hope it just is just a transfer of energy, and that's breaking at the top, but that doesn't mean imminent eruption. Famous last words, knock on wood, because they said we should be able to trust tilt meters and sulfur dioxide readings to tell us about a blast. And you remember what happened like a month ago? Nothing. Zilch. They didn't release anything, or if they did, we didn't find out about it. There were no tilt meter readings, no sulfur dioxide changes, and then boom, it blew. So I'm paying attention, and I said it last time, I'm paying attention to the seismic, and seismic only. And if I see something going on, I'll tell you, well, I see something going on. Okay, now let's go look at the last day's worth of 0.0 and greater for the, actually, hold on. Let's look at the last 7 days of the United States, lower 48, so you can see the phenomenal transfer of energy going all the way across the plate from the west coast to the east coast. Watch this. Look at this, 7 days worth of quakes. And you're going to notice, actually, let me turn off the magnitudes, just so you understand the magnitudes. The size of the ring indicates the size of the earthquake. So we're dealing with 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s, just as a reference. But again, 7 days worth of quakes. Look at this. We'll start on the west coast. Do you see how it makes almost like a O shape or a ring shape? Now it goes over to Montana and it clusters out around Yellowstone Park here. Then it goes down across Utah in a diagonal line from Salt Lake down over to the Colorado border. Then it focuses in on southern Colorado, goes down through Texas, back up into Oklahoma, back across the New Madrid seismic zone, and then back up the east coast. The only thing missing are a few open areas in between these spots. So, for instance, an earthquake, for instance, in Virginia, right here in the middle in between these two clusters of quakes, or an earthquake down here in Mississippi, Alabama, in between these two sets of quakes. But overall, this line of quakes coming out of Montana, going down into Texas, back across Oklahoma, back up to the east coast into Maine, New Brunswick, southeast Quebec, matches the Craton Edge. Perfectly. 7 days' time. Craton Edge displaced. 4s on the west coast, 3s in the Midwest, 2s and 1s over on the east coast. The reason I'm showing that to you, I showed this to professionals, and they said it was just chance or coincidence. That was 8 years ago. This is the flow as it takes place going across the edge of the Craton, which means the edge of the Craton is being displaced from the west coast over to the east coast, seismically speaking. Now, I'm not saying that's the way the plate's moving. I'm just saying, actually, the earthquakes are going the opposite way than the plates move, like a conveyor belt. The top of the plate's moving one way, earthquakes are moving the other, usually. Crazy, isn't it? That's a new discovery, too. That's just something else I've found over the past 10 years. But the spread is going across the Craton, and we can see it. Now, in the Midwest, from central Arkansas, which is right here where this pinkish-colored earthquake is, this 2.2, all the way to the west, across Kansas and Oklahoma, and Texas, all of these quakes, and southern Colorado, and northwest Colorado, are all at drill points. Every one of them. Let me show you again. From this 2, marked in blue, back across this huge cluster at the center of the screen, down to the south across the border with Texas, back up to western Colorado, all the way up here. Every one of these is drilled. Now, once we get over to the east in southern Missouri, or, well, actually, that's Tennessee. That's the New Madrid seismic zone, 2 1.8s. Once we get further over to the east, no drill points. We are strictly on the edge of the North American Craton. So the drill point quakes begin in Colorado, go down through Texas, and go across the whole Midwest. And you're welcome to go fact check me on that if you don't believe it. I will pull some of these if you need to see it. We can just randomly, let's start up here actually, in Colorado's northwest tip. Battlement Mesa, Colorado. Okay. And I recommend that you do this on a regular basis. Put the coordinates in. Go look them up. You'll start to remember what's there, so you don't have to look them up all the time. And you can start to show other people. Be like, hey, look at these drill points are getting hit all the time. So do you see all these little white pads in the ground here? This is Colorado now. Rifle, Colorado. Every one of these is an oil well. Oil and gas. Fracking. Do you see them? The tanks, the pumps, the jacks, the pipelines. Tanks, pumps, jacks, pipelines. That's oil pumping. And they go all the way across the area. Thousands of them. Different drill points. Mainly wastewater disposal fracking. And it goes, again, up into the mountains on this side. Every one of these little cleared pads is a different oil well or gas well. I'm not against oil and gas at all, but drill points, weak points. That's what it is. Edge of the craton, too. I mean, drilling on the edge of the craton, and then you push on the edge of the craton. I wonder what's going to happen. You know what happens when you perforate stone or score stone? Even slightly. Now, they're going down a few kilometers. It's not like they're just going a few hundred feet down. Let's go over to Stonewall Gap, Colorado. Go take a look and see what's there. Now we're going down to southern Colorado. So I'm just going to pull these coordinates. I'm showing the new people. I'm not interested in convincing the people that have already seen all my updates. I'm interested in reaching that one person who might be able to make a difference out there, either in legislation or in just teaching and showing students. Now, I got tired of marking the wells, so you can see where I marked them. And then every time I would get done marking them, I'd come back and they'd update the imagery and you'd have 100 more. And you can see the shadow of the jack of the pump there, all connected. Every one of these two. These aren't campsites or forestry sites. These are all oil and gas wells. Let me see. Yeah, there you go. You can see it. Oil and gas. So we're in southern Colorado now. So I just showed you two spots. Again, northwest Colorado, drill point. Southeast, central Colorado, drill point. Now, Texas, do I even need to show you? Texas is known for its drill points, known for its oil pumping operations. It's like Saudi Arabia at this point. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it's like Saudi Arabia. It's actually might even be more drilled than Saudi Arabia. Millions of times drilled across Texas. Again, here, zooming in, here's the coordinates for the earthquake, and our nearest drill points are right here. You can even see they've got the pipeline laid out on the ground. They don't even bother to bury it. I mean, again, it's probably a good idea they don't, because when they rupture or break, you'll be able to see it at the surface and clean it up easier. There you go. All over the place. And there are literally millions of drill points, like I said, across Texas. This is just a small example. Here's just a small example of one county in Texas that's been completely drilled. Every little white pad. Those aren't houses. They're all oil. See if we can even find a town nearby to show you what a town... Here's what a town looks like. Here's what the town looks like. And then our oil patches all around town. Millions of drill points in Texas, like I said. The rest goes for up into Oklahoma. I'm not going to bother with the rest of Texas. You guys are welcome to look them up for the rest. Let's just get an earthquake from the Big Stack in Oklahoma. Notice how it just says M2.5 Oklahoma. They're not even giving you a triangulated town. Wow. They're back to that, huh? Now, there's all kinds of financing that comes through for the USGS from the oil industry. Look where we are. Here's the swarm location. And what are all these? What are those? More pipelines, drill points, pumps, jacks. Look at the shadow of the jack. You can see it on the ground. And how many drill points there are. So let me just show you. These are all drill points out in here. You'd think they would be houses, right? Nope. Those are not houses. Here's an old barn. And then here's our jacks and pumps. And again, they just lay that pipeline right out on the ground. All right. Now let's go out of Oklahoma and over into Arkansas. I'm just proving it to you. That's all I'm doing. I'm from the show me state. Missouri. If you're not from the United States, let me just quickly bring you up to speed. Each state has its own motto. Sunshine State, you got the Empire State up in New York, and then here we have the Show Me State. People in Missouri are like, show me or you're full of crap. And if you don't show me, I don't believe you. So here's our earthquake epicenter. And just like all the other spots that I've been talking about around here, let's see if I can zoom in and find a drill point. Yeah, there we go. More jacks, pumps, tanks, and pipelines. All over the place. Fracking. Fracking. You're fracking down in here. And it goes right up in our imagery date. I don't even know what date our imagery is from here. Let's turn off our place marks. 2014. My God, it's old imagery. So 2014 imagery, we have a lot more drill points down here that happened in the last 4 years since they really opened this all up. Well, we're right next to it. Definitely close enough. So that's that. Again, from here, back to here, over to here, down to Texas, back up to Colorado, all drilled. The whole craton, central portion, has been drilled. And it leads to a transfer of seismic activity going across it. Now we're going to go turn on the last day's worth of earthquakes and go look at the west coast so we can see what's currently moving, what's getting ready to move. So far, no 5.0 level activity has come into California at all. Nothing has struck off the coast. The plate has somewhat stopped shifting. Or has it? Let's take a quick look and go see. So I'm going to turn off, let's close some of these windows. My goodness. Let's go over and look at the tremor map from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. 17 tremors. Yesterday, 17, that's it. Each one has a small magnitude assigned to it, but I want to zoom in and see where it's happening. Let's see. Mount Shasta, the town of Weed, California. Yes, that's the name of the town, Weed. I have viewers that live there that sent me merchandise from the town. Hilarious stuff. Well, anyway, there's Mount Shasta. Let me show it to you on Google Earth. Go over to the west coast, California. Here is Mount Shasta. It's a stratovolcano, well known. And just to the west, all our little tremors are taking place. Again, on the west side of Mount Shasta. These little vibrations as the plate is shifting slightly. Now, what's shifting? Out in the ocean. The Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Let's go back a day to the 16th. 58. Look where it is. The North Valley of California. So wait a second. We're moving around down in California. Let's go back to the 15th. Look at that. 178 of them. Centered around Vancouver Island. This is when I did my last update. Actually, no. 2 days ago. But these little red dots, the plate is shifting across Vancouver Island in Oregon. Then goes to the 16th, goes down to California. 17th, yesterday, down in California. So this means the southern arm of the Juan de Fuca is now shifting. Whereas, let's go back like 6 or 7 days. Well, let's go back to the 11th. Yeah, look. Spread out across the whole region, centered to the north, though. Mainly centered to the north. And we can even go back to the start of the month, and it was really moving up north, with just a little bit down south. So think of this like a teetering scale, right? A two-arm scale where it's balancing right now on both sides of the Juan de Fuca. I got my warning going out right in the middle of the whole hot mess. Right out in the edge of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone is where I'm watching for a new break to take place, since the plate has started to slow down in its shift. We'll call this a slow down of the slow slip. The slow slip was actually going into a fast slip, starting to pick up. Now it's going back down. I don't know if it's going to go back up or go back down. This is the wild card in what affects North America. Out in the ocean, the Juan de Fuca fracture zone affects what happens on land in California, Oregon, Washington, and even the edge of the craton. This is why the craton's moving right now. Why the earthquake's 3.0 range are going over to Texas, and 2s and almost 3s going up to the East Coast. The plate shifted a little this past week. And I shouldn't say a little, because it was actually going up into the hundreds of tremors. So something is going to break, most likely out in the ocean. And California, high and dry. High and dry, no seismic activity of any significance, knock on wood, because we know it's coming. You're not going to get off of this, guys. The rest of the planet is shifting all the way over to Europe, all the way down to South America, 7s up in Japan, 6s and clusters in the West Pacific. The only people left to get hit, Central America, North America, Laurentia, the North American plate. It's the only one left to go. I would think it would be in the 6th level because we take a step down. The only good news is we take a step down by the time we get over here to the North American side. So we have to go up and around the plate into the northwest, looking for a breakout in the ocean 6.5 level in the next few days. Bay Area, we're leaving the warning going for you. Until this takes place, again, how many more days do I even have? We're 4 days in, right? By Tuesday. So we have till the 23rd. We have till the 23rd for this to take place. I would think that it's going to take place soon. That Bay Area is going to get hit. Also across the border over here, right at the, not Ridgecrest, Long Valley Caldera region. Ridgecrest already got hit. The only reason I just said Ridgecrest, a new earthquake just popped off there. But we look over to the east, in between these two, I would think 2 different earthquakes. One in the 5-ish range, one in the upper 4-ish range, or near 5, but 2 of the same size quakes. Bay Area, Long Valley. Now, should we look up the rest of these quakes? I think we should. I really do, because what would you do if I told you these 2 areas here, along the coast of Northern California, over at Geysers, California, that's the spot, and over here between Lake Tahoe, that they're related, that there's something they have in common with each other. Let me pull the coordinates here, over at the Geysers, to show you Clear Lake Volcano and Mount Canocti, this caldera that humans have drilled into to get steam. And I'll show you what it has in common with all the way on the other side of the state over at the border. You see these? These are geothermal turbines connected to pipelines that go out to drill points, and they're all over the place here, the turbines, to collect steam from the side of this volcanic field from Clear Lake. Okay. Volcano drilled into to get steam. Now, over here, are there any turbines? No. But there's something here that's just like Mount Canocti and the caldera, only it's bigger. I think it's a supervolcano, but I'll show you and I'll let you decide. Professionals have not weighed in, so maybe they'll get out there and do some studies, but here's the earthquake epicenter. Again, let me show you. Lake Tahoe here, Pyramid Lake here, and the earthquakes are in between them. There's a supervolcano, I think, in between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. We'll call it Mount Dutch 2.0, Mount Dutch Reloaded. And here is the shape, the oval shape that's lined with its own volcanoes, and it gets hit with earthquakes around the outside edge and going into the middle of it. On both sides of here, we have a geothermal field down here, Steamboat Springs, well known. Steamboat Springs. And let me show you what they've done at Steamboat Springs. Geothermal turbines again, and a bunch of them, where they drilled in to get steam out of that geothermal field. So I told you that we have something in common on both sides. A caldera with a lake and geothermal, and over here, a caldera with 2 lakes and geothermal. And guess what? On the north side of here, we have more geothermal. The Needles at Pyramid Lake, the geyser and thermal field here, the fumarole field that has not been drilled into. But it's about the same spacing on both sides of this, which again, I stand by it now. It's a remnant of an ancient caldera, as yet undiscovered by professionals. Once we go down to the California-Nevada border, we've died out with the number of earthquakes on the California side. 3 sets, 4 earthquakes total, and this is a supervolcano confirmed at the California-Nevada border called Mammoth Mountain Long Valley. More Long Valley than Mammoth Mountain. Mammoth Mountain is on the side, it's the spot where everybody goes, but it's a smaller volcano on the edge of the caldera for Long Valley supervolcano, with its 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt down below, classifying it as a supervolcano, which people used to debate me on. I used to say it was a supervolcano. They used to say, no, it's not. These are people like, trolls or whatever. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. Well, it's never been measured. You don't know. You can't prove it. Well, they came back and did actual measurements confirming 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt down below. So I make a big deal about it now because I got trolled hard on that. 2011, everybody was a know-it-all. They didn't know nothing. They knew nothing. Kind of like an old Operation Ivy song. All I know is that I don't know nothing. Let's go across the border to Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Center, where I found out something. Where I learned something. I did know something. I finally know something. Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Center had a 12-mile-long surface fissure fracture form last year when a 6.5 earthquake struck here. Big crack in the ground formed, spreading west and east. Now, earthquakes spread along with that all the way over to here, where somewhere right down in here, I don't even know if I'll be able to find them, we have old quarries that started to get, right in here. There we go. Old quarries that started to get hit with earthquake activity, and it spread over the past several months, this line of quakes. Well, that line of quakes is still going along where that surface fissure fracture formed. And it's pointing back to the supervolcano, which has gone quiet. Why does supervolcano go quiet? Why are these two moving up to the north? Well, I think there's about ready to be a release coming out of the northwest. Let's go up to the northwest and take a look. What about this lone earthquake out here in the middle of Oregon? Well, let's go take a look, see what's there. Southwest of the Sisters, Oregon. Or Sisters, not the Sisters, just Sisters. What is at the location in question? How about a volcano? And this is the crater at the top, by the way. Three Sisters Volcanic Center. And look at these smaller spatter cones on the side. Do you see that? Look at that. That was a volcano at some point in the past, guys. A little outbreak on the side of Broken Top. Broken Top marked by the Smithsonian here. Go ahead and read it if you need to. It's just ancient. And look at this line of lava domes. La Soufriere. Wait, is that? Yeah. These are lava domes. La Soufriere down in the Caribbean just had one of these form in the past few weeks. But look at this. It's a whole line of them going back up to a flow that happened. Really cool looking, huh? Now those, again, are ancient, but we connect into so many more on the north side. Look at that. 4-in-1 cone. Look at these lava flows. Just so awesome. And they're somewhat recent. I'll say they're recent enough that they don't have any tree growth on them. Okay, let's carry on. So that's where the 0.9 is, at a volcano. What about the big stack up here to the north? Aren't you curious? I know the smaller earthquakes around here, for instance, like this one right here, is it? Right in the middle or on the side of Mount St. Helens. Do I need to show it to you? Let's show you the small earthquake first and then go look up the cluster. Oh, the suspense is just so overwhelming. Paste and search. Whoops. Wrong. Why did I not grab the right coordinates? Copy and paste. That is what it is. Let's get a sip of the coffee. There we go. We're on the north side of Mount St. Helens. There is Mount St. Helens. The famous volcano blew in 1980. And it blew this direction, which knocked down all those trees. Is this tree or is this ice? Yeah, these are all still the trees floating in the lake for 30, 40 years. 40 years. For 40 years, we've got all those trees floating in the lake there. Isn't that wild? Look at them all. Anyway, we're on the side of the volcano. Nobody should be shocked. Small disturbance around the volcano. Same distance over to the west as well. But the stack. Where's the stack? East-northeast of Ashford, Washington. Surely the USGS would tell us something about the earthquake, other than just the coordinates of being somewhere from 22 kilometers away from somewhere. I mean, if there was something significant here, they would tell us, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? Would they? No. No, they wouldn't. We got a big swarm breaking out over here on the top or up inside of Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier. Rainier. And it's a well-known stratovolcano in the northwest United States. You can see it from downtown Seattle. But don't you think it should say something about Mount Rainier on here? I guess you could click on regional information. Look. So you click on nearby places. Look what they don't tell you. They don't tell you it's at the volcano. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to look it up. They don't want you to be alarmed. That's why they don't tell you. They're worried about you being worried. So they're so worried about you being worried that they leave out information that's crucial for people who study the subject. Let's go up to Granite Falls. Yeah, general public studies the subject, USGS. General public needs to know when a swarm's breaking out at a volcano. And you tell them it doesn't mean it's going to erupt. It means there's a slight little perturbance coming in to the magma chamber. But then they'll ask, where's it coming from? And then you'll have to answer the question about the plate shifting and not telling everybody about the ETS that happened last week with its, or last few weeks, with its hundreds and hundreds of tremors per day that have now gone down to next to nothing. The tremors go down to next to nothing. Next thing you know, volcanoes start to go up. And wait just 1 second here. We have a detection of a hot spot out here in the middle of nowhere along some kind of Forest Service road up here in Washington. Just one. A lone hotspot. But wait. Southern California. We got ourselves something going on out here. We've got lines of hotspots now. Look at this. All these little red dots are computer detections of hotspots by the satellite that's getting filtered out because the computer doesn't know how to read it. I do know they do bombing runs out here, especially through this valley right through here. This is the famous corridor where they do the, isn't it? Where they do the, or is it this one? It's either this one or this one, where they fly through here around low altitude doing flares and bombs and all kinds of stuff. So they might be doing that. We'll write that up right now as being potential military. But if it carries on or spreads, I'll think elsewhere. Let's see. What else is going on? Do we have any other hotspots across the whole country? We've got one down here in Mexico. One hotspot down in Mexico up in the mountains. Oh, wait. Okay, we'll justify this one. Look at the smokestack on that thing. Some coal-fired plant. Of course there'll be a hotspot detected on that, especially if it's cold down there. I don't see any other hotspots across the whole country except for a few down in Florida. We have a few up in Canada, eh? Few hotspots up in Canada. Oh, wow. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, I had a little sneezy cough there. Well, this certainly is in the middle of nowhere. Do we have anything else up here? I mean, I'm quite literally out in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of winter, sub-zero temperatures up there, too, in Canada right now. And I mean really, like Arctic temperatures. Two hotspots on the edge of the Craton. Right north of, what is that, Lake Erie? I should know my Great Lakes. Yeah, Lake Ontario. Sorry, eh? Get your Molsons. Okay, let's go back over and take a look one more time at the seismic going down into California now. So recapping, Mount Rainier is moving. Mount St. Helens is moving. The plate was shifting. Now the plate is starting to slow down in the shift. Meanwhile, the areas on land start to pick up. Energy transfers out of an area that shifts into the area next to it. And it starts to move. I still have the warning going for the Bay Area, right here in the middle next to Mount Diablo, for a few more days, 3 more to 4 more days. And further down to the south, we go on the creeping section and we stop at a place called Parkfield, California. Parkfield, California is directly on the San Andreas Fault. And why do we stop, though? I mean, we should carry on and go on down to the south, shouldn't we? The thick red line is the San Andreas. Earthquake's coming down to here. Well, let me show you what's right next to here. See where it says Coalinga and Avenal? This is where the earthquake epicenter is, where the star is. Oh, of course. Of course. Craton diagram stuck on. It happens from time to time. Usually when I don't press the button hard enough to turn it off. So sometimes it's my error. My apologies. Sorry about that, people. I know it's a little annoying. Look where the star is, and we go over to Coalinga. And we're on Coalinga. Let's show you on Google Earth. Man, I wonder how long that was on. Was it on my whole update? If it was, it's beaten to your brain. Now you're going to always remember the Craton for like the rest of your life. It's an impromptu update. I might not even upload this on YouTube. I guess I will upload it on YouTube. Even if it's got the Craton graphic stuck for several minutes, I don't care. We come down the San Andreas here. We stop at Parkfield. But right next to it, remember what I told you, Coalinga and Avenal. Look what's here. Do you see them? Drill points. Thousands of them. Oil and gas. All the way along here. All of these little black dots on the ground. Different oil wells. Oil and gas, but mainly oil. And it goes down to the south. So this is where the drill points really pick up. And that's where the earthquakes go down too. Now, the drill points kind of putter out right down here at the south tip of the valley and then pick back up down in LA. But the earthquakes go down to the south tip of the valley and try to go across the Mojave Desert. So it's a flow going east by southeast. Let me show it to you this way. Do you see? All the faults, except for the Garlock. This is the Garlock right there. All the faults go northwest, southeast. And that's the flow the seismic takes, for the most part. Over here, this cluster of earthquakes spread out. I'll pull one from right in the middle. Little Lake, California, 7.4 kilometer depth. Little Lake. What's at Little Lake? Anyone? Hey, chat on Twitch. Chat on Twitch. How long? Was the Craton graphic on for like an extreme long amount of time? Put it into chat. I'll come over and check it in a few seconds. If it was on way too long, I'm not going to upload it. But if it was just a little bit, we won't worry about it. Okay. Volcano Peak, and the earthquake is coming in right in the middle. Volcano Peak, you see all the lava flows. You see the structure. You see which way all the volcanoes are facing. They're all going in the same direction. They're all going in the same direction as this. The Owens Valley, where we had a bunch of hotspots 2 days ago. All right, let's go over and check the chat room. Let's go over and check chat. Make sure everybody... All right, okay. All right. Good, then that's good news. It's good news that we weren't completely on the whole time with the Craton graphic. No, it wasn't in long. Okay. I have to make sure, guys, because if it's on, people are going to freak. People complain every time, you know? All right, well, let's get back to it. Now, let's just talk about this overall. North America, high and dry. I struck out last week. The plate shifted. The slow slip always interferes with the normal flow. So if the slow slip carries on, we look for it to carry on and keep carrying on and keep carrying on with a push going across the plate, going across the Craton. If it slows down, so the plate starts to move, then it slows down, we look for a big earthquake to strike out off the coast or somewhere very close to it, and then a spread to go across the plate. So either way, there's a spread that goes across the plate. One is a steady push that pushes all the way over to the east coast, and we get moderate-sized quakes, 2s, 3s, 4s, going across the plate. The other is a big snap, pushback, pullback like a spring in a pinball machine. And you're pulling the lever back, and you let it go, and it hits the ball. Well, that can happen when it's a spring loading that takes place. So the steady push is what we want to see, and the break push or the break snap out in the ocean is not what we want to see. But that looks like what's getting ready to happen. That's what's happening everywhere else around the plate right now. So it stands to reason should happen to us. Now, they don't report a lot of earthquakes out in the ocean. But once we get up above that 6.0 level, it becomes like trying to hide the elephant in the room. So I don't think they'll hide it if it strikes out in the ocean. And they can't hide it if it strikes on land. They can downgrade it. So, a 5 comes rolling in on land. They take it down to a 4.9 or a 3.9 to get it out of there so people don't worry about it. The people around the area that feel it, they just tell them, oh, it was just a 3 you just felt, that's all. Don't worry about it. Go back to work. Property values remain high, everybody keeps their job, nobody pulls out their investments, the whole thing keeps going on. All you gotta do is play the game. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the 7-day earthquake feed. I'm not playing the game. That's why they hate me. I won't play the game. Well, I started my own game. Started my own game. Oh, well, you can come along with me if you want. You don't have to. Nobody's making you be here. 12:08 p.m. Central Time, 18th of February, 2021. It is officially freezing cold here still. Take a look at what I've been dealing with. Look at this. Man, you want to talk about cold. Yeah, right now, actually, wait, hold on. It's 23 degrees. It's warm. It was like -2 Fahrenheit, which is like -18 Celsius. It was just so cold. Lake froze over all the way. That's not an open field you see there. That's a lake that's fully frozen over. We're making do here. But what this reminded me of was being prepared. This whole winter event that I'm going through here. Being prepared. Having the appropriate supplies to get you through a seasonal event, whether you're living out in the desert and it's hot, or whether you're living in a cold area. If you're caught without power, what are you going to do? Thank God we have a wood-burning fireplace, and we did lose power at the coldest time. Power's out. Hey, speaking of power outages, how about the rest of the freaking country? Hey, my idea now doesn't seem so bad, does it? Power printed on paper. Go watch my video. Already figured out how to do it. Anyway. Generators printed on paper. Already made a video showing everybody how to make it. If you want to make it, go make it. Somebody develop it. We could save the world. You won't have to depend on wind and solar power anymore. I'm getting sidetracked, but the whole point here is to be prepared. My emergency kit did come in handy. Yours will come in handy, and it might not be for an earthquake. You might have to get it for a fire or a flood to evacuate. Do you have your appropriate identification in there? You know, birth certificate, extra ID, extra debit card, flashlight, batteries, and of course, seasonal specific. Freezing cold outside, you need multiple pairs of socks, you need multiple layers of clothes. I don't know if that's all going to fit in a backpack. You might need something bigger or multiples. The point is, look at your surroundings. You'll come up with great ideas of what to do. I'm just getting the ball rolling, encouraging you to go take the next steps. Okay? Food and water, man, that's a tough one. Because some people are going to have long-term supplies. You can't carry those with you. I mean, it's not like you're going to be able to go grab your buckets of food and run outside during an earthquake. So you're going to need to have something in your emergency kit. I would think maybe the pre-packaged granola bars and fruits and that kind of stuff, fruit roll-ups, those foods that last a long time, processed but still last, and have that in your emergency kit, and then have your long-term supply that you can, even if you have to get an axe and a chainsaw and cut in to get it, that you could eventually get to it if it's in a house that's collapsed or you can't get to. I'm giving you ideas again, like I said. You'll come up with better ideas than mine. 12:11 p.m. Central Time. I'm out of here. We're going to save this as a video and upload it over on YouTube. Much love to everybody. Thank you for supporting my operation. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're on Twitch, thank you to everybody who's been subscribing. That financially compensates me. I saw somebody asking, is Twitch free? Yes, Twitch is free overall as a service. You can watch anybody. It doesn't cost anything to watch. You can just hit play, just like on YouTube. Some people, like myself, have their chat room set up for subscribers only who are paying. Whereas YouTube is a general free-for-all jungle that requires cops and moderators and everything. On Twitch, you pay to be there. And so that reduces the number of people who are looking to cause problems. Who's going to pay to cause problems? And if they do, we get their money and we ban them. So that cuts down on the shenanigans, and that's the difference. So otherwise, you can watch anywhere. It's free to watch, free to share, free to listen, everything else. YouTubers, okay, Twitchers, they're taking care of their end by supporting the operation. All I ask from my YouTube viewers is that you hit the like button if you like what I'm doing. No big deal, doesn't cost anything. And share the information. Share it. Let the people know over in Europe what's getting ready to happen. You know anybody in the West Pacific? Let them know. Send them my whole video. Tell them to watch the part about the West Pacific. If they live in Europe, tell them to watch the part about Europe. If they live in the United States, let them know. Bay Area, a 5 is enough to get your attention. I hope I'm wrong. We only have a few more days to go to find out. Anyway, you guys have been there for me, whether you're on YouTube or on Twitch. 99.9% of you have been there for me and the Duchess this past week when we're just devastated. And I'm recovering now, and that's what it is. Much love, everybody. Peace out.